Hello, everyone.
Joe, good morning. Happy Friday.
Good morning. Thank you for putting your names in the chat box here. I'm running a little bit behind, unfortunately. We will. I might wait one more minute here and then we'll get started. Let me bring up the agenda, which I noticed a typo on. Hopefully, everybody did okay with the storms yesterday. Holy cow. This. I'm having a bunch of problems with my screens here. Here we go. All right, why don't we go ahead and get started here? Good morning, everyone. I noticed a typo on my agenda here, and it's something I wanted to kind of bring up with the group real quick. As you may recall, I think it was last month I had to reschedule. So we went from the normal 9 to 10 to 10 to 11, and I must have tweaked all of the meetings to 10 to 11. I hope this meeting time works okay with everybody. I would be open to moving back to 9 to 10 if that's a better time frame for everybody. Let me know kind of if you have a preference. Otherwise, we can kind of keep it 10 to 11 since that's already reserved, I think, on everybody's calendar for months into the future. But I need to update my agenda here. So I guess in the chat box, if you have a preference, go ahead and throw that in there. Otherwise, we'll just kind of keep it 10 to 11. I'm fine with moving back though, if we need to. Lots going on. So I want to try to get through quite a bit of information with everybody today. And then I'll ask our new grantees or new staff to kind of stick around. We can run through a couple of other things or maybe dig a little bit deeper into some stuff if needed. That's something, again, kind of that changed a little bit this year. We used to have two separate meetings. Now I'm trying to kind of tack on the new awardees or new directors and new staff meetings to the end of our normal conversation for anybody that wants to stick around again for maybe some additional information or additional details, or we might dig through some other stuff that we didn't cover in the main meeting. Today, I don't really have anything new, but again, we might go through some additional information, or if you have extra questions, extra information that you might be needing. So if you haven't already, please put your name and the group you work for in the chat box. That helps with attendance, just to help me kind of know who is on hand here. I will be posting this recording and this agenda on the Iowa21cclc.com site, probably within the next day or two. That was something that was managed by the After School Alliance, but now that their contract is ended, it's something that we're managing in-house. I will be out of the office next week from Tuesday through Friday. I will be in fabulous tropical Washington, D.C., at the United States Department of Education for their annual SEA directors meeting. I'll be hanging out with my counterparts from all of the other states across the nation, as well as Department of Ed staff, and then a number of other groups. So I'm curious to learn kind of the inside information, if I can get that or glean that in the meeting, but just try to kind of learn what's going on with budgets and federal decisions and everything kind of going on at the national level, as well as just trying to network and kind of learn from my counterparts in other states. So hope to learn new things. if you have any specific questions or concerns or anything, maybe shoot me an email like, hey, I heard Idaho's doing this or North Dakota mentioned this, or if there's anything really interesting that you want me to try to kind of run down or get more info on, or specific questions you'd like me to ask. Of like the federal Department of Ed or our federal counterparts. I'm not sure if I'll be able to ask them, or maybe I'll try to kind of glean some information. But if you have anything you're kind of curious or dying to learn about, let me know, and I'll try to kind of add it into my agenda or my to-do list when I'm in DC. But looking forward to that. I was hired. I've been in this role for just over a year now. So when I was hired last March, it was too early for me to go to the meeting last year. So this will be my first time meeting with all of the other states and our federal contacts in person. Obviously, lots going on since that time as well. But yeah, send me any questions or hot topics or anything you want me to try to maybe run down. A quick update on the RFA, so the grant application process for the next fiscal year, so the next school year. As many of you recall, the application closed back in December, and we've been doing a lot of time and effort and running through kind of the reviews and scoring and everything. Because of my travel next week, we generally have the awards out by the end of April. Because of my travel next week and kind of things going on and kind of disruptions in my schedule, that may not be until the first week of May, so it might be a little bit later this year. The timeline is not changing for when programs would begin funding, so it would still be the July 1st being the beginning of the funding, and then the end of the state fiscal year with June. So nothing is going to change with that. I'm unfortunately just maybe going to be a little late in making the announcements this year. We already kind of have all the contracts and everything queued up and ready to go. But again, just kind of crossing T's, dotting I's is taking a little bit longer. And then the travel is going to kind of mess with that a little bit. So if you applied, hang in there. I've got information to share and hopefully in the very near future, but it might be a little bit later than we had originally planned. In terms of everybody that is continuing their funding for next year, so if you're in a current award cohort and you've been planned to have funding for the next year, if you may recall this last year, or I guess this year still, we did our contracts a little bit different. We used to send a contract for signatures and director review, and it took like 2 or 3 months, this really long process. Last year, what we did is we still sent a paper contract or a PDF contract for you to review and sign, and then we uploaded that into our online CASA system. And then you just had to upload that and then fill out a couple of assurance statements. So we didn't have to do the entire official signature process. We are going to do something similar. So you'll see something come through here within the May, maybe June timeframe, because it's going to be a quicker turnaround. But you will just continue funding as normally planned. No, that there's nothing that's going to change with that. So if you were already planning to have your funding beginning on July 1st, it will begin on July 1st. We're just kind of still fine tuning what that's going to look like to ensure that you get that official award notice and then are able to have a contract or some document, something to kind of point to for your budget and your planning purposes. But nothing is going to change with that award amounts or anything like that. Are there any questions about what that might look like? No? Okay. So just don't get worried if you're not hearing anything. Reach out if you're curious, but we don't plan to not fund anybody that was already in a award cohort that had that second year, third year, whatever that was planned for the next year, fourth year, and so forth. The third quarter claims, I know I've been sending weekly emails about this, but our third quarter claims are open. So they've been open for about a month. It's kind of hard to believe we're almost at the end of April here. But the claims window will close next Thursday, so April 30th. So if you haven't already, I would strongly recommend getting in there and submitting your general ledgers and then your updated budget worksheet. The budget worksheet, if you I think everybody's aware at this point because they keep mentioning it, but at the top of the budget worksheet, it has enrollment estimates for that quarter. We want to make sure that you're adding for each quarter the enrollments that you've been seeing. It doesn't have to be maybe perfect. Again, they're essentially estimates. But we need to make sure that it's in there. If I open up a budget and it's not in there, I'll have to send it back. So something to keep in mind. I think most of you are doing a really good job with that, but we want to make sure that's in there. And then again, there's really the two required documents. I need some sort of general ledger that helps us understand what you were spending and in what categories, and then that budget worksheet, which really you're just going to update quarterly and then submit. And then that again helps us understand where you were spending your funds, but also how many students you had during that quarter. Are there any questions about the third quarter claims process or just claims process in general? Okay. Third quarter, I mean, yeah, everybody's kind of a pro at this at this point. We've gotten through a couple of quarters. The first couple can be a little rocky for our new applicants or our new awardees. So third quarter, we're maybe getting into the swing of things. Right around this time of year, because we are kind of starting to wrap up our funding year. Again, kind of hard to believe we're already almost through our funding period for the year. We want to look, and I've already gotten a couple of emails about this, but this is the time where you're maybe looking at your budgets and saying, "Ooh, I'm not on track to spend everything down in this area." And then we often get requests this time of year for carryovers also. I will send an official kind of carryover estimate request here, probably after third quarter closes, maybe in May, just to get an idea of what you're maybe planning to carry over into the next year. As a quick reminder, we really only allow up to 15% of carryover of your current funding year. And then we need to know why. There are some flexibility if, for instance, you had a tornado go through town and then you couldn't do field trips for a couple of months. That you might have a budget that's a little bit larger, a little bit more than that 15%. But we really want to try to hold to the amount and try to make sure we're using our funding within the year and the award period that we had originally planned. So if anybody is running into a situation where they have a lot of carryover, reach out and let me know, and we can kind of brainstorm ways to maybe spend that down that we maybe had not considered or had not been included in your original plan or your application. We've got a little bit of flexibility there. And then again, if you have line items, like it doesn't look like you're going to be able to spend down all of your professional development, for instance. I'm a little bit flexible in the professional development area specifically. If you're saying 5% is a lot of my budget, I'm maybe not going to get there. We might be able to trim that down a little bit closer to like 3% or something, and then move that into other areas to buy more resources to support your kids in different ways. But again, these are all things that we'll have a conversation about just to better understand if you're making changes to these budgets. Why is it happening? What are the impacts? How is this going to improve your program or your students, and so forth? So we'll have a conversation about that. And I've got some forms to fill out. Are there any questions about line item changes, budget modifications, carryover estimates, anything like that?
Could you say again when that is due to you, Joe?
So,
If we want
yep.
to request carryover?
Yeah, so you can send that to me at any point. I will send an email out to the group. I generally wait until after the third quarter just to try to make sure you kind of, we've spent all that down and then you're looking at your fourth quarter budget. But if you already have it planned out and have you feel like a pretty solid and accurate estimate, you can send that to me ahead of time. That's fine. I just know sometimes groups, like I said, maybe things pop up, or third quarter as I'm looking at your submissions, we might need to change some things, and that might modify some stuff. But yeah, you're welcome to do that whenever. Any other questions about remaining budgets, modifications, anything like that? No? Okay. In my email, and I'll send a reminder email, probably a couple more because we still have quite a bit of time for this. But this is the time of year that we generally have you fill out a professional development tracking sheet just to help us understand what you've been doing in terms of professional development for your programs. As you may recall, and I know I just mentioned, but we have a requirement that you spend at least 5% of your budget annually on staff professional development. So this can be a number of things. This can be conferences. So the Impact After School Conference is a good example that I know a lot of you spend money on, but national conferences also qualify with prior approval. You just got to kind of let me know and we figure that out. But that's bringing in guest speakers, that's purchasing maybe programs or like canned professional development workshops and worksheets and programs. A number of things qualify within that professional development bucket, but we want to make sure that we have your staff are receiving different opportunities throughout the year, just to try to strive for that continuous improvement and program quality. You do not have to always pay for professional development. So, like I know the Iowa After School Alliance puts on a number of different really good free workshops. You can put those in the professional development activity tracking sheet as well. That will help us understand how much time you're spending and what topics you're looking at. But this tracking sheet also helps us understand just kind of what's being spent and what's being used in different ways. And then this covers what it really, I mentioned the fiscal year, but just to clarify, that would be last summer, as well as fall and then the current spring. So if you have things that are still planned for yet this fiscal year through June, go ahead and put that on there to help understand kind of what you're looking at. But really, we're looking through that July 1st through June 30th of this year, July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. Are there any questions on that tracking sheet?
Joe, I know you just said something
Mhm.
in regards to like seeing the money that's spent. Do you want only the professional development that is coming from 21st century funding or just in general? Because
Yeah.
we do other supplemental, I guess,
Um,
other funding.
Yeah, I would say one of the main purposes is just to help us understand what you are spending and kind of watching that aspect. But it's a good question. I appreciate when your staff takes other professional development. I would say if you're getting those other professional developments, just don't put the cost in there if you're not using 21st century funds. But you're free to list it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. And this is another area if you feel like you're not going to reach that 5%, or if if you're looking at this sheet and saying, holy cow, I lost track of time or I lost whatever, that's something that we can have a conversation about. And I might have ideas that you can spend some of that down that will support your staff in different ways. Or again, we might be able to look at a line item move to kind of move some of those funds to other areas to use. So it's something that we don't have a large carryover amount that we hadn't planned for. Very good. Speaking of professional development, I've had this very basic professional development best practices survey open. It's just a Google form. If anybody hasn't taken it, please do so. That will help us plan for the year ahead and looking at different opportunities. Again, that we can help support you in different ways. And as I had mentioned, I'm trying to look at as many kind of free or really discounted opportunities that we can provide to you all, or that we can maybe pay for as a state. So again, that you can kind of free up more of your budget to go directly to your programs to use in different ways. But I need to kind of have a better understanding of what you are really looking for, and that might be missing or that you feel like could be beneficial. And then I can do some research to try to identify any state or national programs or partners that we can maybe set up and then begin getting some of that training, whether virtual or in person or hybrid. I'm a big professional development person, continuous improvement person. So always looking for ways that we can support you in different ways or different manners, vehicles, etc. So feel free to take that or have your staff take it, and just to kind of again help us better understand how we can support you in different ways. A couple, so something I don't have the unified allocation plan on here. I took it off because we don't have any updates. I'll maybe leave it off in case we get any updates that I can share with the group. But everything is kind of just moving as scheduled. We haven't had any new waivers or anything come up. So I know I'd mentioned in the past that the information that we had gotten didn't really impact 21st century that much, and definitely didn't impact your funding in any way. So nothing to worry about there. And again, I'll keep you updated if anything changes in the unified allocation plan that we had submitted to the Federal Department of Education. I'm trying to think if there's anything else going on. You may have heard, so the Trump administration put out their proposed budgets for the next fiscal year. So, and just like last year, there are proposed cuts and moving different programs into a block grant process, which again happened last year, but Congress denied all of those changes. So it's interesting that they're trying again, and I don't have a magic 8 ball or crystal ball to see what's going to happen in the future. But I don't foresee any big changes to the program again, because there was such a huge outpouring of support and kind of pushback from really both sides of the aisle that we saw last year. So I just take it with a grain of salt that these are budget recommendations that are coming from the administration, and there is still plenty of time to kind of debate that and figure out what's going to happen. But if you heard, I just wanted to make it very clear that nothing has been determined yet. Those were, again, very similar to last year, very kind of high level budget recommendations. Congress still has to do their due diligence to actually come with budgets, and figure things out. Are there any questions about kind of the budget and kind of what you may have been hearing? No. Okay. I think I might have mentioned it last call or last month, but we've already received our preliminary estimates for our funding that we'll be receiving next year, and it's actually a little bit of a boost. We had been kind of trending down, so we're actually kind of bumped back up just a little bit, not a lot, but I'll take all the money I can get. But we already have our preliminary estimates. We generally receive the official notice, and this is for the budgets that have been already been approved, but they go through the process of kind of identifying state funding and levels and so forth. But generally, July 1st is when we get our official notice for funding for the next year, that we'll then use for the next. So that would be the 27-28. So that funding is all but guaranteed. I don't want to use the word guaranteed because anything could happen, but that funding was already approved by Congress and it's, in the works. So I'm quite confident that we'll have funding at least for next year, even if something really goes kind of sideways with the budget planning for 2 years down the road, which again, I don't expect to happen. Any questions about anything that I've covered? I ran through kind of quickly. Anything I covered or didn't cover? Are there anything else going on that I can maybe address, or comments, questions, concerns?
Joe, I had a question about professional development. This
hmm
is Sybil here in Burlington. Do you all plan to have the fall conference as you did last year? Is that still kind of planning? I'm just trying to look
hmm
out towards next year's calendar and doing some of that,
Yep, good
just
question.
things
I
like
meant
that.
to mention that. Yeah, so the Impact After School Conference is something that the Iowa After School Alliance puts on. We've generally sponsored and been kind of a part of it, but we do still plan, or at least I'm fairly certain Heidi and team are still planning to offer that. I didn't see that registration was open yet, so I didn't have it on the agenda. But I would make sure you watch for that. We're still planning to do a meeting, maybe the day before that conference, of the directors, as well as a number of different workshops during the conference. So yes, they do still plan to have it, and we do still plan to be involved. But just because of the ending of that contract, it's maybe not going to be as directly involved as in the past. But yeah, I've been trying to kind of watch for that. I don't know. I think they're just a little bit behind getting things out. That's generally in either September, October timeframe.
Thank you so much for that. I did
hmm
have another question related to programming,
Okay.
if that would be okay. And this is actually for anybody out there that might have, in their opinion, a really great uh, handbook that they would give out to families. I'm working on redesigning the one that we have to make it more updated, more relevant to reflect programming as it is now. They had a really good one several years ago, but as you guys all know, we have to kind of revisit and readjust. So it's a summer project we've started, and so we want to make sure we're looking to do that. And also, my district, we are anticipating that we're going to do much more online registration for the regular school day than they have in the past. And some districts might already be doing this already, but we did actually have in-person registration in the past. So again, definitely want digital copies for our families to be able to utilize. So if anybody has any interest in sharing the work that they might have done or suggestions, I would love to connect. And I'm going to put my email in the chat if that is okay with you, Joe.
Yeah,
Awesome. Thank you.
that's great. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording and we can continue to kind of have a conversation, but those were the big things I wanted to cover with the group today.